This is the scene right now at the Rogers Center in Toronto, Canada. After Elimination Chamber, a battered, bloodied, beaten Cody Rhodes is being escorted backstage after he was just taken down by John Cena. The final boss was asking for his decision. Cody said, "Go F yourself." The boss gave the signal to Cena, and all hell broke loose on what Triple H guaranteed would be an industry-changing night, and it was. And with that, we welcome you to the Elimination Chamber post-show. I'm Joe Tessitore, joined by Big E and Peter Rosenberg. And this is one of those moments, maybe the rarest moment of all in the industry, when everybody collectively is trying to catch their breath and comprehend what just happened. John Cena turned.
Joe, your opening sounds made up. It doesn't sound real. I never thought we'd see that. When that I leapt out of my chair. We talked about all the possible scenarios with this Cody and Rock situation. Not once, not one time did that cross our minds. Not once. I can't believe it. To this day, I don't know what I just saw.
KO Sammy was insane.
Unbelievable.
Jade Cargill comes back and attacks Naomi. Randy Orton comes back. Those were the things that I thought were insane up until 5 minutes ago.
Bianca Belair wins Chamber. John Cena wins Chamber.
Oh yeah, John Cena's going to WrestleMania.
That's correct.
And I thought that was as insane as it could get. I am truly, it's rare that I'm left speechless, but also can I say, as a fan of wrestling my entire life, that was awesome.
It really was.
I mean, for 20 years, people have dreamed what it could look like if John Cena completely lost it, and he has now completely lost it.
The 16-time world champion who at Royal Rumble, when we were sitting on this set, on this show, on the post show, he said, "I will win title number 17, not for me. I will win someday." Shake the hand of the person who wins 18, honoring the industry, caring so much to everything he's put into it, and then that just happened.
Tess, this was supposed to be a goodwill tour.
Yes.
He's supposed to see the world and glad hand and kiss babies and shake hands like he always does and rides off into the sunset as the beloved John Cena we all know and love and have for the last 20 years. No one predicted this. No one anticipated this.
Doesn't it make you, though, rethink the words at that Rumble post show? Because when you really think about it, the John Cena that we know of hustle, loyalty, and respect is always about earning it. He sat down at that presser and said, "I deserve this, and I'm taking it."
He absolutely
It really
did.
was a different version of John Cena.
He said, after 23 years of loyal service to this company, I feel this opportunity tonight to put himself in the Elimination Chamber was earned. He won what was an incredible Elimination Chamber match. But then, at the moment of truth, this was when The Rock said it is decision time. The final boss turned to Cody Rhodes, and he said, "If you want the American nightmare to live forever, if you want riches and fame beyond anything you can understand, embrace me. If your answer is no, then tonight the dream dies." The dream died.
And there it is.
One signal.
And there it is.
But Tess, why? This man already has all the money and fame and success. Why? That's what why? What for? What else could John Cena want in life? He's got it all. Why? I don't get it. I don't understand.
I just rewatching it again. I'm not kidding. It was one of those moments where I see Rock hit the throat slash, right? And I'm thinking, why is he doing that? Like, it literally crossed my mind. And then you see John's diabolical eyes. And then what we saw for the next 10 minutes, it was Cody Rhodes. It reminded me of Dusty Rhodes being attacked by the Horsemen. Just an absolute brutal assault from The Rock and John Cena. And even Travis Scott getting shots.
Yeah, having had some little Travis Scott and then standing over him and the final boss wiping the blood on the weight belt. All right, let's get to what we have in store for you today. As you know, we expect to hear from John Cena. He is the Elimination Chamber winner. We expect to hear from the final boss. Of course, it's not a post show without hearing from the guy who's the architect of all of this, the Chief Content Officer, Paul Levesque. But right now, we want to get into what happened to start the night, and we'll get right into the highlights of the Women's Elimination Chamber, and we will have the live guest who won it all. So let's take it away and show you what went down, because it was a shocker right from the start. Jade Cargill returned, but then this is how things went down with Bianca Belair and Liv Morgan.
KOD, baby, right in the middle of the ring. Seen that before. No repeat for Liv.
Liv went for Oblivion. Bianca countered. Bianca hits the KOD, the pinfall win. And now look at this. Second career elimination chamber. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky are going to face off on Monday Night Raw. If everything holds form, it would be Rhea and Bianca. 3-time women's champion, could be 4-time women's champion soon enough. And by the way, you look amazing on a night.
Looking like money.
Chamber, huh?
Woo! Thank you. Thank you. I
does it
appreciate
feel?
that. It feels amazing. I had a great night. It's very bittersweet because of what happened, but I'm trying to focus on going to WrestleMania right now.
Do we want to jump into that right away, because
Yes.
it's one of the massive stories. So we're sitting there. Everybody assumes that when Jade Cargill returns, your partner, who you won the tag team championships with and was brutally attacked, and we saw the security video that we've made the assumption for a long time that it was Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez who had the attack. And all of a sudden, Jade comes back, and we'll show you what happened here. And we assume she's going to be on the attack to Liv Morgan. But instead, she goes after Naomi, destroys Naomi, as you are sitting there in the pod watching in horror. Can you possibly tell us what you were feeling at that moment?
I was so confused. Honestly, I was very confused. I feel like I still need answers for that. You know, I didn't understand what was happening. Naomi and I, we were very sure that Liv did that. And Naomi kind of, you know, she pushed to me that Liv and Raquel did that. But when I got back to my match, Naomi wasn't there because she was stretched out, and Jade wasn't there. So I feel like I need to talk to both of them before I jump to conclusions right now. I'm not really understanding what's happening. I don't really believe that Jade would watch me team up with Naomi knowing that she did that. I truly don't believe that Naomi would do something like that. I've known her for a very long time, but I don't know. Tonight's was just very bittersweet. I'm trying to focus on going to WrestleMania, but
Well, that's my question for you,
it's
Bianca.
very bittersweet.
How do you focus on making it to WrestleMania, handling business with Io Sky, getting to Mania, but not thinking about the fact that your former partner just went crazy on your current partner?
It's hard. It's hard because I formed this bond with Jade, and I formed this bond with Naomi, and this happened tonight, and I'm confused. And I want to be proud of what I did tonight. I accomplished something
You
very
should be,
amazing.
tremendously.
I'm the first 2-time Elimination Chamber winner, and I want to be proud of that. I want to point to that WrestleMania sign and know that I'm going to go face Rhea or Io, but I'm heartbroken. And I just need answers. That's all I can say right now. I need answers, and I have to go talk to both of them about that.
Right. And obviously, this is a massive talking point, but I also want to focus on the fact that you're going to WrestleMania. Do you think, WrestleMania is not far off. Do you think with everything going on with Naomi, with Jade, that you'll be able to focus and be prepared to once again become a world champion at WrestleMania?
I do. I feel like through the years that I've been here, I've been faced with trials and errors. I feel like I've been teamed with a lot of people, and unfortunately a lot of people have turned on me, and I've tried to stay 10 toes down, and I've tried to fight through everything and climb my way to the top. So I know that I have this amazing opportunity to go to WrestleMania and either face Rhea or Io, and I have to give that my all. But before I do that, I have to get answers. Until I get that closure, I know that I can't fully move on and focus on WrestleMania. So I have to get this closure first, and once I do that, then I'll be able to focus on WrestleMania, and I'll be able to give it 100%.
When you reflect on the match, what do you feel like was the turning point that put you in position?
I feel like at one point I really wanted to just get out of that chamber. Like nothing else mattered.
You wanted to get after
I
it,
wanted
get on
to.
the
I
attack.
wanted to get out. I wanted to get my answers. I felt like nothing else mattered at that point. But when Liv Morgan came up behind me, and she brought me back in the game, and I knew that I was still in the fight.
By the
And
way, the braid whip, I mean, are you
That
kidding
was
me?
maybe the hardest braid
I
whip
mean-
I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
You
The
know,
scarring across the abdomen and the back.
Yeah, it's no joke.
my number one rule is do not touch my hair. And Liv Morgan over and over pulled my hair, so I had to hair
The
whip her.
sound was echoing throughout this. The sound of it alone.
It was. Listen, Liv Morgan is a habitual line stepper.
Yes, she
And
is.
she paid the price. Now I
She
have
is.
to ask you this. I remember talking to you back at Fanatics Fest, and we were talking about your tag team run. And while you obviously were in the middle of it, a championship run, I could sense there was a part of you that, as much as you loved it, did yearn to be back in the singles picture. Is there a part of you that is just very excited to be able to get after Bianca Belair things again?
There is a part of me. I did miss it. I enjoyed the tag team title run, but I feel like the way that it ended, it is easier for me to pivot to this singles title run. I know that I've accomplished a lot of things, but I have been having an itch for that, and I feel like tonight was my night to climb my way back to the top, one step closer to get to WrestleMania, one step closer to remain undefeated at WrestleMania, and continue to show that I am the EST of WWE, that I am the strongest, the fastest, the roughest, the toughest, the quickest, the greatest, the best. So yes, I am excited about that.
I thought so.
Absolutely. Peter and I talked about this earlier. We've teased you and Rhea so often in NXT, but we've never seen you two at WrestleMania. Do you have a preference? Obviously, she has to get through Io Sky before that's even a question. Do you have a preference at WrestleMania? Who would you like to face? Is it Io or is it Rhea?
That's such a hard question because they're both such amazing talent. I've faced Io Sky before, and I think we have magic when we get in the ring. That's one of my favorite matches that I've ever had, and she pushes me to my limit every single time. I think Io Sky is one of the best in this business, so that I know that if we go to WrestleMania, to be able to conquer her means everything to me. On the other side, you have Rhea Ripley, who is one of the most dominant women in this division right now. But I feel like Rhea Ripley and I were on opposite sides of the mountaintop, climbing our way to the top. Last year, we were on the video game cover together. We've had very parallel journeys in WWE, but right now I feel like Rhea is the perception that she is the best right now because she has that title. My reality is that I'm the best. So no matter who it is, I just want to go to WrestleMania and prove that I am the best, the B-E-S-T, no matter if it's versus Io or Rhea Ripley.
You know, it's interesting to think about the highs and lows that can happen in this industry, but the fact that they can happen in a span of less than a week for you, for Monday night to happen the way it did, for then what happened just before Elimination Chamber, to see that, and then to be so jubilant on the back end, knowing now you're going to get a championship match at WrestleMania. I mean, the roller coaster ride never ends.
It never ends. It's always ups and downs, and that's what I've been used to. We had the tag team titles. We lost them to Liv and Raquel, and I feel like I used that frustration to push me to Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber match, we're all in there fighting to get to WrestleMania. So you have to become a different version of yourself when you're in that chamber.
We're going to say goodbye with one last highlight here because we brought it up. But that moment of truth here with Liv Morgan
I need to see. I haven't
with
seen
the braid whip. Yeah, don't touch my hair. Listen to this.
Do not touch my hair.
Here we go. I mean, are you kidding me? What? Why'd you do that? I mean, that's too far.
Did you really say, why did I do that?
It was too much.
She was trying to pull me off the pod by my hair.
EST.
I did what I had to do. The loudest. Yes. That's another EST.
Listen, I don't know what it's like to have one's hair disrespected. You know what I mean? It's not a problem I deal with. You handled it thoroughly. Thank you so much, Bianca.
Thank you.
Good luck with whoever it is.
Thank you so much.
Complicated evening. You should celebrate, though. There's a lot to celebrate.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent being with
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. That is your Women's Elimination Chamber winner, Bianca Belair. She's going for gold again. She's headed to WrestleMania. We are just 49 days away from Las Vegas, April 19th and 20th, as we continue on from the Elimination Chamber post-show here in Toronto. Don't go anywhere.
These young stars trying to prove that they belong in the spotlight.
It's about to be a wild ride, baby. Let's go.
The evolution of pro wrestling is unfolding in front of our very eyes.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all here, and I hope you are very, very excited because each and every one of you are about to make history. And you are going to show the world where wrestling evolves. I want to welcome each and every one of you to WWE Evolve on Tubi. Congratulations. Now, you all have heard this is where dreams come true. Take this opportunity to go out there and show the world that you belong. And more than anything else, it's going to be a hell of a blast watching each and every one of you evolve.
My name is Keanu Carver. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I didn't grow up like the rest of the people in this building. I grew up throwing hands on the concrete. I had no father in my life. He was in and out of jail. My mom was a babysitter. We really didn't have nothing. And when you at the bottom that long, you get tired of it. And I got tired of it. I was trying to make money. That led to some beef around my way with some hoods. And I didn't care who stepped in my way. I didn't care if it was 8 people, 12 people. I was gonna take the whole hood on. I was fighting every single day to get paid. I'm running with the ball they give me. I'm taking everything. I'm not really here to take no for an answer.
Hi, I'm Smiley Kylie Ray. I am just a big ball of positive energy. I was raised on WWE. From the time that I was a little kid, that was all I watched. I never thought I would be here. It took the long way to get here, for sure. But I'm here, and I made it. It's almost like because I took the long route, it made me appreciate it more. I just want everyone to be happy, so I totally have motivation to keep everyone happy, including myself.
Every journey begins with a single step. For these young, hungry athletes, Evolve is just the first chapter. The ring is their canvas, and they are here to paint their legacy.
And we stepped outside, and I threw my first ever punch, and I punched him in the face.
The dream of WWE.
There's a lot more to me that you don't know.
It's within reach.
Fear always held me back and kept me from where I wanted to go.
These are the future stars of wrestling, and the future starts now.
Joe Tessitore, Big E, Peter Rosenberg back with you on the Elimination Chamber post-show. There are hardly words to describe the pure brutality, the vicious, inhumane punishment we saw in the unsanctioned match of Kevin Owens defeating Sami Zayn.
Kevin Owens, this man, if we go through another PLE with him doing things like this, how is he going to survive?
I don't know. I truly don't know. This was everything we wanted it to be. It was brutal. It was violent. Those two held nothing back. I'm with you, man. I don't think Kevin can keep doing this to his body. I don't think Sami can either. And look, at the end of all this, we got to see Randy Orton.
That's right. Let's get an update with the aftermath and the medical conditions from Jackie Redmond.
Yeah, Tess, I got to tell you, I've known Sami Zayn a very long time, but I don't think I've ever seen him this emotionally conflicted. You know, I sat down with him for an interview last week heading into this match, and he talked about not recognizing himself and being unsure of what he could be capable of in this situation. But perhaps the most concerning part of that conversation was Sami's own admission that his neck wasn't in a place he was comfortable with heading into a match of this magnitude, a match expected to be so violent, so intense, so brutal, the WWE chose to bear zero responsibility for what could happen between these two former friends. I've tried to get an update on Sami Zayn's condition. I've been unsuccessful in doing so. What I can tell you is that he's no longer in the building. He's been taken to hospital. If we get an update on his status, I will bring it to you as soon as we have it. But I think we can all agree that this could have been much, much worse for Sami Zayn had Randy Orton not shown up. For more on Kevin Owens' side of this situation, let's turn it over to Kathy Kelly.
Yeah, Jackie, the situation is obviously very complicated. While everyone has been fixated on Kevin and Sami's friendship heading into this unsanctioned match, you could argue that his relationship with Randy was at one point just as strong. It's no secret that Kevin has been one of my closest friends for years, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that the KO that we saw out there dishing out that level of brutality is the same KO that has been the voice of reason for so many moments in my life. I did see him before he left the building, and I was hoping that I could get an update to share with you guys, but he didn't seem in the mood to talk, which is expected after enduring tables, chairs, barbed wire, and that unexpected return from Randy Orton. If I do hear anything, though, you will be the first to know.
Excellent work from Kathy and Jackie. The updates that we know right now when it comes to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. This was brutal. It included a steel chair that was wrapped in barbed wire. Now, Jackie brought up the fact that it could have been even worse for Sami Zayn, if that's possible, and that's because Kevin Owens exposed the concrete at one point. He was going for a package pile driver, and then the return of Randy Orton. So we have a lot to dig in on. Once again, our big headline of the night is what happened with Decision Time with Cody Rhodes and the Final Boss, as the Final Boss gave the signal to John Cena, who turned on Cody Rhodes. That was the aftermath after Elimination Chamber. We will hear from our Chief Content Officer, Paul Triple H Levesque, in a matter of just moments. But quickly, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the aftermath, the return of Randy Orton.
Well, I mean, tonight's all about WrestleMania, right? And you saw Randy Orton for a moment look up at that WrestleMania sign. How are we not thinking about that, Randy and KO at Mania?
And we understand that Paul Levesque is ready in the press conference. Take it away. Here's Triple H as he makes his way in. Obviously, there is so much that he should be proud of in terms of what the event was, but he's also going to be fielding a lot of questions to deal with what we saw with John Cena turning on Cody Rhodes.
Well, Joe Testore had nothing to do with that. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. I want to thank the city of Toronto, Rogers Center, and Scotiabank just for Arena for being just incredible partners to us in this whole journey of getting here. I want to thank the fans in Canada, and honestly, the fans from around the world. We had fans here tonight from 43 U.S. states and 37 different countries from around the world came here to Toronto to be a part of this. Sorry if I'm breathing hard. It's embarrassing. It's a long way from the other side of the venue to get over here. We were on the hustle. Very cold and very far away. But I want to thank everybody here in Canada for being gracious hosts and just for being an incredible fan base. You know, it's always amazing to come here and just the fans here are always loud, come to have a good time, and support their whether they're favorites or boo our flag, whatever that is. They they love doing it. So thank you very much. This and I feel like I say this a lot. This is the highest grossing WWE event in the history of Canada. And that's a country that has hosted WrestleManias, multiple WrestleManias. So really excited about that. The attendance tonight, 38,493. Hopefully they'll put the right number on the bottom of the screen. But really exciting. Like I mentioned, 43 U.S. states, 37 countries around the world. This Elimination Chamber crushed our existing sponsorship record, and everything that I was reading while I was walking over here really quickly, it seems like viewership across the board on both Peacock and on Netflix was just really, really strong. So an awful lot to talk about. Star-studded show, incredible storylines. I would throw out to everybody. Does it feel like we're on the road to WrestleMania now? Yeah. Yeah. So when you have a few extra weeks, you got to wait. And I know patience is hard to come by, but I think tonight was really the sort of, you know, the Rumble, and it's, you know, this year's been different, right? We had Netflix on Jan 6, and it was such a big event going into Saturday night's main event, going into the Rumble. It just makes for what seems like an even bigger build to the moment of Rumble. Rumble kicked off, and, you know, that starts the road really officially to WrestleMania, but tonight sort of we put it in gear and stepped on the gas. And that's really what we're looking forward to doing. You know, the star power of tonight, Rock, Cena, Travis Scott, just the, you know, some of the biggest entertainers in the world were here tonight, as you saw. And, you know, when you look at both chambers, just some of the biggest, most WWE superstar studded elimination chambers in history. I felt like they both delivered incredibly well. You know, Bianca Belair stepping into WrestleMania. Question is now, is it Rhea Ripley or is it Io Sky coming out of this Monday? Obviously, the tag match, Trish Stratus coming here, you know, still at the end of, but still participating in just an amazing career. And for her at this point in her life to be able to come back here to Toronto, perform like she did tonight in front of her home, in front of her children and her family, and at the same point in time, help support and grow a young talent like Tiffany, to help get her to the next level. That's what this is all about, right? It's about moments like that with the past coming back to help the future. And I thought that did a lot for Tiffany, and I thought the match itself was great. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn is just another level of competitors. Just, you know, I don't know when they had their first match together, but it was very early in their careers. They've been doing this for years. They've been best of friends. They've been the worst of enemies, and it's always incredible. Tonight was one of the most incredible matches I've ever seen between the two of them. It's just no matter what you do with them, it delivers, and it usually delivers beyond. No matter how much I work with both Sami and Kev and how long I've been working with them for years, I feel like you get to the place where as good as I expect it to be, it surpasses that every single time. And then I thought the men's chamber was incredible. I want to talk really quickly about Jade Cargill. I know sometimes that seemed like an odd build or an odd storytelling, the way it all went down over time. Sometimes they're very difficult. It's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to tell a story when you don't know the outcome that you have in front of you yet. Is she going to be back? Is she going to be back soon or really long? When is that? You know, like you just don't have any answers. So each week you're just kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit to see where you get to. Luckily, she was able to come back when she did right now. And we were able to get to the place we got to tonight. I thought that was an incredible moment. So happy for her to be able to come back and do that. Excited to see where that leads, both her and Naomi. Bianca Belair, as I mentioned before, stepping into her spot in a main event at WrestleMania, will either be against Rhea Ripley or Io Sky, but another incredible performance. And I also wanted to mention, you know, it's great to have Alexa back. I think she adds so much to the women's division. And then Liv Morgan just continues to impress me. A woman that a year ago, many people would have said, it's great to have on the roster. And, you know, she's a good hand and all those things. That just in this last, well, I guess since May, has just become a megastar and continues to surpass that. To me, she stood out tonight as just she stood out, just a star in a spotlight, thriving, and looks, even when she's in pain, looks like she's having the greatest time of her life doing it. And the little nuances that she is picking up now, like she is, she's earned that spot at the top and earned a spot to be called one of the best women in the ring that we have right now. So incredibly proud of her. You know, and then of course, Randy Orton coming back tonight. You know, when you have a star the caliber of Randy Orton and an icon and just a legend like that is still sort of in the prime of his career, and you're able to get him back and get him rolling in a meaningful way, headed into WrestleMania, that's just incredible. So a lot of surprises tonight. Jade Cargill, Randy Orton, incredible matches, incredible moments. And then John Cena drops a nuke. I think, I don't know, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of the biggest things in this business in the last, say, 30 years. I don't know that I've ever felt a more powerful moment of the entirety of John Cena's career, being the one guy that you never really saw, at least in the in the beginning of his career, whatever. But as you move forward into that, when he really became John Cena and the champion, you didn't see this moment coming. And in a moment of, when you get to a place in your career where undoubtedly you have months left on your career and your dream and the thing that launched you to the rest of the world, to movie stardom, to everything else that he has in his life, it puts you in a different perspective, and it puts you in a place of like, it is now or never, and you can ride that out, and you can rest on the things that you have done, and you couldn't really blame John for doing that, right? For just saying, hey, I'm coming in, and he told you differently, but to say, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to ride the nostalgia wave for the next 10 months. I'm going to wave at everybody. I'm going to do the Nifty Tour. I'm going to come to your town. I'm going to say hi and expect you to react to the nostalgia of John Cena. Or somebody like him can double down and say, screw it, I want to be challenged right to the last moment. I want to go out on my shield. I want to give this everything I have. I want to be, I want to challenge myself. I want to do something different. I want to be afraid of it. I want to go out there and do it all. And that's the beauty of John Cena. John has always been the guy to do what is best here, but he's always been the guy to jump out on a limb. He's always been the guy to get out there, stick his neck on the line, and gamble on himself, and he did that again tonight, and it was incredible to watch. There was a moment when Cody was down in the ring, and Pat and Cole and Wade were out there trying to help him to his feet, and Rock, Travis Scott, and John Cena were standing in the aisleway next to each other, that I thought to myself, just holy shit, never get any bigger than that. That is just an epic moment. Like, I feel like this is one of those nights where 20 years from now, people are going to be saying, well, shit, that night in Toronto. And it was incredible. I don't know that you realize it in the moment, but that's the way I feel about tonight. This was one of those nights where I think people thought this will be a good PLE, and we just blew that expectation out of the water. So thrilled for everybody here, excited for all of it, and I'll open it up to questions.
Let's begin in the first row, left-hand side.
Hey, Paul. Jan Murphy, Toronto Sun. There have been some pretty iconic moments happen in Toronto. You think about it, Hogan Warrior, Rock Hogan, Cena's return last year, and then tonight. Where do you think tonight fits into that sort of legacy that Toronto has? And is Toronto still a viable market for, say, WrestleMania return?
I think all markets are, right? If that is a different animal now. That includes a bidding process and everything that goes into, because it is such a massive business. Hundreds of millions of dollars pour into the city that brings WrestleMania in, right? The economic impact that we have going into a city where anywhere in the globe with something the scale of WrestleMania is just, it's incredible. It's an incredible windfall for them. But in any place that has a vibrant fan base and has a building like this, like the Rogers Center, that we can go into and pack it with a lot of people and get them there from all over the globe. So it's definitely on the list. Where does tonight fit in that sort of list of epic moments? you don't know, right, until time passes. Like I say this all the time about when we were in the Attitude Era, there was just these incredible things that happened. But for, I don't know, some of them just seem like, well, it's Tuesday, right? Like it's just what's happening. And then, you know, as things move on, you realize, oh my God, that's like one of those things that lives forever. I do feel tonight, though, up there watching it and having seen these kind of things, you know, the majority of my life and 30 years of my career here and being, like I said, being fortunate enough and privileged enough to be around some of the biggest moments in this business, that felt like one of the biggest things I've ever seen happen and be a part of. You know, I remember Bruno telling me stories about Madison Square Garden when Koloff beat him, and that he had thought he had been hit in the ear, and he went deaf for a second because the 1, 2, 3 happened, and it was so silent that he thought like something happened. And when the first person yelled, he thought, "Oh God, thank God I can hear." It was just so stunning, and that's what I felt like happened to here tonight. You know, the look on people's faces ringside as we were taking camera shots, people were stunned, and I think they didn't. As much as maybe as it was happening, you're starting to think to yourself, like, well, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Is it Cena? Oh my God, he's looking at Rock funny. Oh, like it builds to the moment. And when it happens, you still can't believe it. But I got to tell you, it felt like one of the biggest things I've ever been a part of.
Right-hand side, first row.
Emily May, Sportskeeda Wrestling.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. So we saw obviously this intense attack right now, and you touched on it a little bit, but do you agree that this was the right moment for John Cena to do this and attack Cody Rhodes? And do you have any updates on Cody's status after tonight's attack?
I believe that John Cena has been in this business and has been the focal point of this business, dedicated his life to it, put his body on the line to a point that he has earned the right to do it whenever he wants to do it. I believed wholeheartedly a month ago or whatever it was when he said at the Royal Rumble, like, screw that. I'm going to do what's best for business now. And I've changed my mind now. What's best for business for me is winning the WWE Championship. What's best for business is me main event WrestleMania. And he's running out of time to do that because John is one of the few people that I believe when he says, I am going to retire when this is over and you're not going to see me in the ring again. Will he be a part of WWE? Yes, he always will be. This is his home. Hell, he built half of this, right, in my mind. But he's earned that right to do it when he wants to do it, to go after what he wants to go after in whatever way he sees fit to do it. You know, for a while, people were throwing out on air a lot, the greatest of all time, right? John Cena, until I believe John Cena asked us to stop calling him the greatest of all time. But it's really easy to make the argument that he is. And I, you know, watching that, again, I was watching it tonight with my headset on at a monitor thinking, holy shit, greatest things I've ever seen. And I cannot wait to see where it goes now, because even though we're creating it, you know, I'll be honest, like, I don't know what the hell he's going to do as a heel, right? I don't know. You know, if you flip back a year before Rock turned, I don't think anybody would have seen this Final Boss character and what we're doing with it. You know, so the variables here are incredible. Where we can go with this is unlimited. And when you have people as good as Cody, as good as The Rock, as good as Cena, and you mix that all together, like, it's limitless. So, you know, even though I'm part of that, I can't wait to see where it goes. I really mean that. There's a part of me as a fan that is just in awe of it right now.
Left side of row 2.
Chamath Kosandu for Screen Off Script. You're all about telling stories, Triple H, and that final segment had an F-bomb from Cody, had a heel turn from Cena. It was violent, it was bloody, and it was fantastic. And it really lit a massive fuse for WrestleMania. What I'd like to know is, could you just provide some insight into what this entire creative process was like for you, the individuals involved, what was the genesis for this segment, and how you finally think that everything landed tonight?
Like everything we do, I'm a really big proponent of collaboration. I want all the ideas. I want to throw them all out on the table. I want us to all look at all of them and then begin to have conversations around, like, what is the best thing? And then start to think of, okay, so out of those things, how can we tear those up and, I don't know, blow them up and go in a completely different direction that nobody will see? You know, it's hard sometimes to think of what nobody sees because nobody sees it, right? Like, and that includes you when you're doing it. And it's, you know, at some point in time, little germs of ideas come in, and what if, oh my God, what if, right? And it just begins to percolate. I'm fortunate in this time frame that I have some of the great minds to work with, right? Like, you know, Dwayne and I have been working together for, I don't know, like almost 30 years in some manner, right? Like here, anyways, right? And he's always been an epic storyteller. He's always been an epic guy to get outside of the box and, like, let's do something different. And how can we blow this up and change expectations? How can we make this something that no one's ever seen before? It's really easy to go like, oh, let's do that. I saw this once. Let's do this angle. Let's do that, right? That's easy. Going into uncharted waters, trying things out that's never been done before or done in a different way, things that people won't see coming. That's a lot different, and that's a lot more challenging. So you need everybody's ideas and thought processes. So it starts with a bunch of people coming up with great ideas to try to entertain our fans and lead them in a direction and then jerk them into the other direction when they don't see it coming, if we can do that. And people are pretty savvy, right? So they're tuned into a lot of the stuff we do, and they sense things coming, and it's why we get so upset when we see spoilers and things leak. And believe me, half of the things that are spoilers and that leak are wrong, but like when you do get the ones that are out there where you're like, like it drives you nuts. The one thing about tonight that I loved, absolutely loved, is it was nowhere. Nowhere. Because nobody knew. Like, no, when I say nobody knew here, like nobody. Right before the finish of the Elimination Chamber, I had to say to the truck, everybody lay out, I have all traffic on where we go next. Because nobody knew what was coming, right? It was very, very tight circle of people because we're just trying to entertain people and doing it in a way that is amazing and next level and things they don't see coming. And just, I hate when people go to see the movie and then they have to tell everybody that they know what the finish of that movie is. Like, just let me watch it. Don't tell me. Like, geez, so where does it start? It starts with a group of people that just love this. It's in Rock's blood. He doesn't manufacture those goosebumps when he comes out. That's him. And I think there's a massive group of people here internally at WWE, talent and everything, that is how they are. They live, breathe, sleep this, and want it to be epic. And we start there, and then it escalates. So it's a team effort here that I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of the people that are here.
For our final question, we'll head to the front row, left side.
Thank you. Keith Whittier with Ottawa Life magazine. Congratulations on an amazing PLE from beginning to end. Congratulations on your Hall of Fame induction.
Oh, thank you very much.
As the product continues to grow and grow, how far away are you guys from pulling the trigger and saying that we're just going to be doing stadiums for PLEs and also perhaps looking at doing 2 nights for all PLEs? Because you do it for several of them already, and I know SummerSlam we're going to be doing it. You can make the argument you could do it for Rumble, you could do it for Survivor Series, you could have done it for this one. And then my other question is, as we go to WrestleMania, it looks like Cody Rhodes will be in the main event for night 2. What is the possibility of one of the women's championships being in the main event for night 1?
It's always possible. So let me answer the second half of that first, and thank you for asking it. To me, it's always possible. As we build this, to me, nothing's locked into any spot. As we build this, what resonates the most will become the main events. So nothing is locked in. I believe that for talent, that's the best way to do it. Let everybody fight over the spot. Let everybody work their ass off. Let everybody try to do what we're trying to do, which is write things that are outside the box, do things people haven't seen. Let them get out there and challenge themselves so that every moment that they have on TV, people forget how much value there is in the TV that we put out, right? So when you have a moment on TV, I don't care if it's 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, or 20 minutes. Maximize those minutes. Make the most out of it. Tell me why you should be in that main event. Go out there and don't go, boy, I hope they put me in the main event. Take it. Take it. Make it undeniable. That's what I want talent to do. I want talent. I want everybody that's a part of this to make it undeniable that they should be in the spot they should be in. I don't believe in giving anybody a spot. Well, the women should have the main event spot. Like, it's nice if it is the most interesting thing on the show and is getting the biggest reaction, which when I put them in main events, it's because of that. They earn that. They earn that right, and they have earned the right through their work, their hard work, their sacrifice, their dedication, just like everybody else, to be treated like everybody else and work their ass off to get what they want, just like everybody else does. I don't treat them any differently. And the reason I don't treat them any differently is because I respect them too much to do it that way. To go back to the first part about 2 nights, there's a large part of me that wants to come out there and slap the crap out of you for asking me that. I am not doing 2-night pay-per-views once a month. It is just too much shit, right? Let's just get that out of the way. Look, stadium shows, when we have events that can be in stadium shows, Elimination Chamber historically is not a stadium show. And here we are tonight, right? We're on a hell of a run right now. So when we can do the biggest business we can do, there's just some moments where you feel like this is going to be big. This needs to be bigger than the arena. That said, you know, not everything can be here. Not every episode of the show can be here. Not every PLE can be here, right? If you do, they're just not special. If you go back and you watch any show, you have to have setup episodes, you have to have peaks and valleys, you have to do that. It's a part of what we do. If everything is 2 nights in a stadium, it just all becomes the same. And I don't want to lose the fact that some of the biggest shows that we do, the loudest reactions happen in arenas, right? On top of that, there's something magical sometimes about going to a place that holds, you know, like sometimes I'm jealous still because we used to do it and now I'm outside of that realm. But like Sean goes to a 1,500 seat place or goes to a 2,000 seat place and it's incredible. Like the magic, the ambiance in that room is just off the chart, right? Sometimes I miss that. I miss going to Blackpool, England and going in that venue and just, it's deafening and like crazy. Some of my favorite shows we've ever done have been in places like that. So it's place by place, it's city by city, it's event by event, and we will grow this as we can. You know, when we talk, so now let me take off my creative hat and go into the business mode, but when Nick and I talk about this business, and when you talk about it with Ari or whoever, but when we're talking about this business, where we want it to go, we're not looking to like, we'll just be a little bit bigger than WWE was last year. Let's be a little bit bigger. No, we're looking to take over. We're looking to do this as big as humanly possible. We want to be one of the biggest, if you want to call us a sport, you want to call us entertainment, however you want to label that, we want to be bigger than other sports that are out there. I'm not talking about the NFL because we ain't gonna touch them for all. But like for everything else out there, it's fair game. And we want to go into these markets. We want to blow that out of the water. We want to take over. We want to go on Netflix and be the biggest thing they have live by far. We want to be on USA. We want to be on CW. We want to crush all that stuff and be the biggest thing in the world. I've said it a million times. Our competition is not other forms of sports entertainment. It is everything in the world. And that's where we're going. Sports, movies, whatever form of live entertainment we have out there, we're going to go and try to surpass, and we will. I believe this is the greatest form of entertainment in the world, bar none. It's why I do what I do. I love it beyond anything else. And when we do it well, it is beyond anything else. So wherever we got to go, whatever we have to do, and the path will show itself of what we have to do to get it there. But day by day, week by week, year by year, event by event, we're going to take over the world. Thank you guys very much.
Anything else. Paul Levesque saying, I felt like it was one of the biggest things I've ever been a part of. This is what went down. The moment the final boss gave the signal to John Cena after winning the Elimination Chamber and beating down Cody Rhodes, who refused the final boss's offer. He said, hey, Rock, go F yourself. This is how it turned out, Big E.
Joe, it's still hard to find words, man. It's something that John has playfully teased when people online wanted him to turn heel for many years. I never foresaw this coming. You know, there are people online who are sending me like, oh, here are my predictions, and I already called this coming. We didn't see it coming. None of us up here did. This still is so stunning. This build to WrestleMania has been one that I think for many has kind of been in cruise control. It's leveled up now. We hit another level right now. Yeah.
I didn't notice he hit him with Dusty's watch, but the watch that they got to emulate Dusty's watch,
which was gifted to him,
of course, by Triple H and Nick Khan. But listen, Hogan being the third man at Bash at the Beach, that moment when we saw the camera pan over to Paul Heyman sitting with Roman Reigns, and now John Cena beating down Cody Rhodes.
And here is the 16-time world champion and now Elimination Chamber winner, John Cena, as he makes his way to the press conference after that shocking moment that Triple H said 20 years from now, people are going to say, that was incredible. Drop and walk out. Welcome to WrestleMania season. John Cena, who the last time we had one of these major PLE post shows, sat there after Royal Rumble and talked about 23 years of loyal service, talked about an opportunity earned, of everything he did, of graciously saying, I pursue world title number 17 to own the record, not for me, but I will win 17 someday to shake the hand of the man who wins 18. Just turned on Cody Rhodes, beat him to a bloody pulp, did so in a fashion of brutality, and then walks into the post-press conference, picks up the mic, and mic drops and leaves. WrestleMania season just got a whole lot different.
But as I said earlier, Joe Tess, he said what you just mentioned, but he also had a sense of entitlement when he sat at that podium. He earned it. He was going to get that main event spot no matter what. He put himself in the Elimination Chamber. Don't forget, everybody else competed, earned their way into the chamber. John Cena said, no, I deserve that. We probably should have seen that there was something different. Now, I don't think, Big E, we ever could have predicted what we saw tonight, though. This was a different level.
I mean, absolutely not. Look, I'm going to be glued to Raw on Netflix. I need answers. And will he be there? Will he be on SmackDown? We got nothing. We thought we might get some tidbits here at the presser. We got this man sitting down and dropping the mic and walking away. And look, a lot of us sit here as grown men and women, we talk about this industry, but I think of all the little John Cena fans, all the little kids at home who have the shirts. They must be devastated right now.
I've heard from
Heartbroken.
people. I have gotten texts from people already saying, my kids are freaking out. They could not believe it. By the way, these are kids, a lot of them, who already were upset earlier in the night when Jade Cargill took out Naomi.
Yes.
And then later in the night to see John Cena do this. And can I just say, though, I love John Cena. Listen, he's a bad man, and I don't know what's going on with him, but that mic drop, I frankly didn't want to hear him speculate. I didn't want to hear him explain. That is exactly what I wanted from John Cena.
Yep.
Unreal.
Let's reset things just a bit here as we are on the heels of, and keep this in mind, speaking of on the heels, I mean, that scene right there where they're standing over him with his foot on top of the champion's head. The results tonight. John Cena wins the men's elimination chamber. We had a wonderful visit with Bianca Belair. She is headed to face either Rhea Ripley or Io Sky for the World Championship. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in their unsanctioned match crossed a line that few ever recover from. And then we had Tiffany and Trish, obviously a wonderful reception for the Hall of Famer here in Toronto for Trish coming up with a victory against Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. But I want to get back to what is going to be the headline. What is going to be a headline that will be talked about a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, of what Triple H said heading into this PLE would be an industry-altering night. It was.
It's historic. It's a historic night, one that we'll remember for decades to come. When we talk about some of the greatest, most memorable heel turns of all time, some of the most unexpected moments of all time in this industry, we'll talk about tonight.
Remember Bobby Heenan? But whose side is he on? Hogan becoming the third man. That's, I don't want to overstate it, but seeing John Cena after all years finally doing this, it is that big to me, guys.
It is. And it happened after the Elimination Chamber, that moment when The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, came out to this crowd here in Toronto and said, the moment has arrived. He turned to Cody and said, you will embrace me, and I will embrace you as my champion. And with tequila in hand.
Oh, that's that Terramana, baby.
The Terramana in hand. The man who was looking for the answer and said the American Nightmare will live forever. But if your answer is no, then tonight the dream dies. He gave the signal, and it died. And with that blood-smeared weight belt in hand, here is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the final boss.
Well, that was a fun night. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Am I picking? I'm happy to pick. Sure. Ladies first.
We have him right here, second row, left-hand side.
Denise Salcedo, Instinct Culture. So I'm going to start off with the big moment that just closed out the show. A historic moment, leaving so many fans completely shocked. From your point of view, being in there in the ring as this unfolded, talk to us about how you felt in the moment and coming out of it, of course, and seeing this different side of John Cena.
It was an amazing Lisa, is it? Sorry. Oh, Denise, sorry. Too much tequila. Denise, it was an amazing moment. And, you know, we as entertainers, whether in pro wrestling or whether in film or television or whatever it is that you do, you really live for moments like that where you can hopefully create something that could be very compelling and moving for the audience and take tonight 38,000 strong here in Toronto. And what we have collectively thought about and talked about in the back before and certainly after this moment is no one knew really what was going to happen. Maybe a few called it, but for the most part, I thought the moment was incredible. And I personally love that. And I've been around the block in terms of being a pro wrestler and I grew up in this business, so I love this business. And what I felt tonight, and I've been a part of some really phenomenal professional wrestling angles. And as a kid growing up, we all have seen some amazing professional wrestling angles. I felt like tonight stood beside all of those that were the iconic angles. So it was really incredible. So I was very proud. But overall, I thought the performances by everybody across the board, all the women, all the men, they put it out there. And I'm very, very proud of them. I know their schedule. I know it well. I lived it at one time for many, many years. I grew up in it with my dad, my grandfather, my uncles, my grandmother. I mean, everybody, my cousins. So I understand the grind of the schedule, and what everyone was able to do tonight from top to bottom, from the opening match to the final match, was really phenomenal. And I was very, very proud of everybody. So what a night it was. Sure.
Right inside.
Thank you.
Sam Roberts from Not Sam Wrestling. I have two questions, if you'd bear with me, because one I woke up with, and one I came up with on the floor as we just watched, you know, this huge moment in wrestling. But my first is about the final boss, and I've been pretty public about how much I've loved the character and how much it kind of elevated storytelling in pro wrestling. But at the same time, when the final boss came back last week on SmackDown, 1 minute the final boss is thanking everybody for the amount of money that Moana made and helping people with their phones that had fallen on the floor. The next minute he's talking about syphilis and he's asking for Cody Rhodes' soul.
Sorry, Sam. For the record, not that I have syphilis.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I was pointing it out to a fan. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Poorly phrased question. That's fair. My question is, for us, are we to take the final boss as a baby face, as a heel? Who, at this point, who is the final boss?
I feel like, Sam, in a way, perhaps, and I'm not knocking you at all. I listen to your podcast, and I feel like there is that might be a little limiting. And what I mean by that is because the final boss is a lot of things. He's a heel, he's a baby face, but also he's one who doesn't adhere to the typical professional wrestling tropes that we find of, oh, a heel talks like this, or a babyface talks like this. I feel like I've reached this point in my career where I'm able to go out there as the final boss and address the crowd. Hey, New Orleans, 2026, you have WrestleMania 42 coming to the Superdome. Final boss starts singing. Oh, when the saints come marching in. They start singing with me, and I tell them, no, you shut your mouth, or I'm going to sing by myself. It's not going to happen like that. You know, so I like vacillating between a heel and a babyface, but also I feel like it's important to, I have reached this point in my career where I feel really comfortable in my own skin when I go out there or when I film a film or whatever it is I do, where I say what I want to say, and I say, but more importantly than that, and I don't mean to be defiant or sound defiant about that, I say what I feel. And in that moment, that's the luxury and the brilliance, I think, that's the luxury and the blessing of being in pro wrestling, when you have a live microphone that you could say what you feel. And in that moment, if I feel like having fun with the crowd, I do it. If I feel like telling them to shut up, the final boss is going to sing, or asking their champion, hey, you're going to give me your soul. So I like that. And I like, and also, again, I'm comfortable, man, in being in my own skin. And I like that there, with the final boss, there are no constraints and there are no handcuffs. And we can go out and have the reaction that we had tonight as the final boss because people were waiting, and create an experience with Travis Scott and going out and embrace me, Cody Rhodes, and then eventually putting his blood on this belt and beating him with it. But yeah, so I would say that regarding being a heel or a babyface. And lastly, Sam, I do want to say that I encourage that where we can, and that goes for all the other talent in the locker room, women and men. If we could find that place, and that's a really special place, rare air, where you can, like, don't think about, well, a heel should say this or a babyface should say this. That's old school, and it worked for decades and decades. But today, it's okay. Stretch the aperture out and go out there and say what you feel. Bring it from here.
I appreciate, real quick, I appreciate you saying that. You should come by the basement sometime. But, John Cena,
yeah,
you have this moment, right? And I think one of the criticisms that has come up about The Rock and the final boss, whether it was January on Netflix, whether it was whatever, is this idea that where is he going? Is he the guy who's going for Cody the night after WrestleMania? Is he this? All of a sudden tonight, I feel like one of the things that made this moment so significant was that everything got tied together from John Cena's promo in the press conference. It wasn't even a promo after the Royal Rumble to you showing up at Bad Blood, which at some point people said that meant nothing, but the same throat slit we got tonight. How long, for lack of a better term, has this been cooking?
It meant something, and you said a word, it's long, and that's what it is. I'm a long gamer, and I like long gaming, and I like creating with Paul and with Brian Gewirtz and Maya Lasry, who's on my side of the team, and I like creating with Paul and his team as well. We're long gamers. And so what a lot thought of Bad Blood when it was a pay-per-view that The Rock attended, and I just did a very small, subtle thing, there was a lot of criticism, like, oh, it didn't mean anything. Well, it did. It's okay. It's okay if you're not thinking about it now, but just trust me when I tell you, we are thinking about this stuff and long gaming this, and I love that. Same thing last week, same thing when we opened up with Netflix in LA, where I came out as the director of the board and welcomed everybody and welcomed the Netflix executives. I thank Cody Rhodes for carrying this company in such a tremendous way on his shoulders. I gave him dap, I gave him a big hug. Well, I knew this night was coming. So we're long gaming, Sam. And by the way, I hear you on your podcast. You said a lot of things, especially stuff about pushing and growing the company. And it's okay to break the fourth wall in the world of pro wrestling. I think if you do it right, and there's a right way to do it, and navigate your way through it.
Next question.
Hey, it's Adrian Hernandez of Unlikely. Dwayne, we are 49 days away from WrestleMania, and as you said, this was a historic night, and what an incredible moment to close out the show. You have a message to the fans on what to expect on this road to WrestleMania.
I do. I think the fans can expect the unpredictable. I think they can expect exciting storylines to unfold, and I also want to encourage the fans, whether they're hardcore fans or not hardcore fans who just enjoy the product, take your time, take a breath. It's all going to unfold. It's okay. And now, by the way, not everyone's going to like everything that we present, and that's okay too. But I promise you, as Triple H was here and he was talking about blowing up. And when he and I have worked with him for a very long time and for decades and decades. And so when we get together these days, today, we're constantly, so what we'll do is we'll think about, okay, we have the final boss, we have this character, we have this character, we have this character, we have this event, and we have this storyline. Let's start with the thing that's coming up next, but then let's push ourselves to 8 months from now, 6 months from now, and let's see where we go. So the reason why I share that with you is because what we often do, and that's the fun part about Triple H and I getting together, is we'll take something and take an idea, and it sounds good. Hey, this sounds good. I think we're going to do this tonight, or let's do this at the up-and-coming PLE. And then we'll go, you know what? Blow it up, throw it away. Let's figure out something better. So I think going up and leading into WrestleMania, I think fans can expect the unexpected. I think they can expect some unpredictable moments. I think that they can expect some predictable moments because also at the same time, you do want to make sure that there's certain things that you got to do to make sure that we're satisfying the audience on a weekly basis. And there's certain moments that we all know, we got to make this happen. Let's make this happen. But we'll make this happen today because they expect it and they want it, but maybe next week we'll deliver something different. I'm excited about WrestleMania. I was excited about last year's WrestleMania. We're trying to figure out what it could be. We created that dual main event that happened over the course of 2 nights. I'm excited about every WrestleMania. This one is different. This one is unique, and I can't wait. Thank you.
Third row, right-hand side.
Raj Prashad from Uprock Sports. Hey.
Hey, man.
Travis Scott, we see him tonight, obviously. He's had this incremental involvement, right? He's in the crowd, and then he's a part of entrances, and now he's in the ring. Could we eventually see Travis Scott in the ring, perhaps as a partner with The Rock and John Cena?
Yes. Yes. That's why we're doing it. Absolutely. It's a great question. Long gaming. So, look, I love Travis. That's my guy. where we have expanded to, I think, in the WWE, I feel like professional wrestling has always found its unique place in culture throughout the decades. I grew up in the business, right? We remember rock and wrestling, Cyndi Lauper, Hulk Hogan. We then remember the Attitude Era, et cetera, right? So I feel professional wrestling has had its place in culture for some time. And I think we are tapping into a unique time now. I'm not quite too sure what we name this era. We'll all figure it out. Someone will come up with something cool. I'll say it out loud and I'll take credit for it. But I feel like with Travis loves the business. He loves pro wrestling, and he's a culture guy. Travis Scott he's one of the greatest already of all time. He's a GOAT. He's a legend. He's an icon. He loves the business. So we get guys and girls like that who want to come in and who are already tapping into culture and disrupting culture in their own cool way. They want to come in, they want to have fun at the show, maybe they want to sit, maybe they want to enjoy, maybe they want to be on camera. We're here, we're supporting, but then some want to get involved. And then some, like Travis, deeply want to get involved. And that's what you saw tonight, was this, we have this opportunity to create this big moment in pro wrestling that is arguably one of the biggest, maybe the biggest. Some fans' words, not mine, tonight. And then we also have an opportunity, I think, to bring Travis Scott into as well and start to form a union, an alliance with the final boss and Travis Scott. And he wanted to get, in a way, to steal a term, he wanted to get his hands bloody. And I whispered to him as he was going out, I said, if you get your hands bloody, make it count. Make it count. He slapped the shit out of Cody tonight. He slapped the shit out of Cody. And he was really, really hyped up. I mean, it was really amazing. When Travis landed, by the way, I went in, we had some words. We just chopped up what the night is going to look like. And I caught a contact high for about 3 hours. It's like crazy. And I loved it. I need Travis, and every time I do an appearance, like Travis smoke with Terramana, it's game over.
You have time for one last question.
What? That's it?
That's what they're telling me.
Let's do two more.
All right, two more.
Hello, Mona Nawaz at the One Mona.
Hello.
It looks like you have it out for Cody. First, you put blood on a belt for Mama Rhodes. Now you have something with his father. So were you the influence, and was it the master plan all along for John Cena to sell his soul to you?
I don't know if I was the influence, but I will tell you this, is that it's the part of the business that I love. Two parts of this. It's a part of the business that I love. And I grew up in this business, as we know. I was very fortunate to grow up in this. And the part of the business that I love is that we can create things like this, where I can create this belt, but I just didn't want to put a belt that said Cody's Soul. I need a date that memorializes things, but also a date that means something to me, but really means something to me. It's going to tie into my second part of this answer regarding John, which was, June 11, 2015, when Dusty Rhodes passed away. For those of you who don't know, Cody's dad, Dusty Rhodes, Cody's dad and my dad, Rocky Johnson, they were best buds. They did everything together, riding horses, etc., especially down in Florida. We would go to Dusty's house all the time. But right before Cody was born, because I'm about 10, 12 years older than him. And so Dusty was one of my heroes. So I thought, well, what's a thing that I could really, anytime I come back home to WWE and I do something, I got to have skin in the game. I got to have, really sink my teeth into something. And what's real? What feels real to me? Well, your dad was one of my heroes. So I'm going to put his date here. And if I get the opportunity, and if you tell me no, and if you tell me in his very eloquent way, he told me no to it's like, wow. I don't know if he ever said that in front of 38,000 people like that. What a moment. But as I was saying, it's the most fun part. It's the part about our business that we love in creating moments. So with John, I don't know if I was the influence to this. Perhaps, maybe, I was a conduit to help him in a way, in my small way. I don't want to take any credit for this because this is John. In my small way, a conduit to help John get to the place he's gotten tonight. So storyline, no storyline, fiction, nonfiction. What you guys felt tonight out there was decades of what John has experienced as a performer and as a human being. And I felt it in the ring. I've had conversations with John. We're good buddies. I knew what his why was going into this. And it is so incredibly moving and compelling. And it grips you by the neck when he talks about it, as he's talked to me about it. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing tonight. And again, storyline, no storyline, fiction, nonfiction. The greatest, I think, angles in wrestling is when it's anchored in some sort of authenticity. And what you felt tonight, he didn't say a word. Look, he came out and dropped the mic. That's decades of a man who gave everything to this business that I love. And now it's coming out. And I told him as he left, by the way, he flew in today, this morning, from Budapest. He's flying out right now to Africa to continue. So that's the level of commitment. And I told him as he left, I said, we say two things in our wrestling vernacular. He said, hey, thank you for the house. And I said, I'm proud of you. It's a big deal. All right, last question. Make it good.
Here we go. Left-hand side, third row.
Hi, Rock. Right over here. Hi, my name's Malcolm in Muscle Memory.
Oh, this ain't going to be good. I could already tell. Here we go. No, I'm kidding.
Now, after a long night of taking John Cena's soul, I'm sure you got to get some good eats. The Rock, what is your Waffle House order?
Waffle House?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I'll go a dozen eggs, but only 10 egg whites, 2 whole eggs. Yeah? Yeah. I'll do the hash browns. I'll do the waffle. Scattered, smothered, covered.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, a Waffle House. You're excited about Waffle House, man. I could tell. Yes, we're going to remove you in about 30 seconds out of this room. All right, guys. I would say that, and of course, I'm a jukebox junkie. So anytime I could go into a spot that has a jukebox, man, that's my jam. We can't end on that. I appreciate your question, though. Thank you, though. It was good. It was good. We're going to end on something else. Thank you.
One more. First row.
We'll end with a lady.
The Rock, Maury from the Roz and Mocha Show on Kiss 92.5 in Toronto. Mocha says hello.
Hi, Maury. Mocha. I know Mocha.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So I want to, first of all, thank you for a night I'll never forget.
Thank you, man.
Want to find out now that John Cena is a bad guy, will we change up the jorts or will he continue wearing the jorts? Is the jorts a bad
That's up
guy
to John.
attire?
That's up to John. I don't know, but I could tell you that jorts or no jorts, I think the thing I'm excited about is watching John perform this, right? Because if you think about it, John Cena has been our Babe Ruth. He's been our Superman. He's the guy you never, ever, ever thought would turn in this way, and he did. And it's a big risk, and it's ballsy to do something like that, and it's gutsy, and he's put a lot of thought into this. So I'm just really excited to see him just performatively what this version of John looks like. So jorts, maybe, I don't know. Knowing John, he'll probably stay the exact same. And he'll probably wear what he wears. And tell everyone go. Yes. All right, we should end with a lady. Would you like to go last?
Good evening, Emily
Hello.
May with Sportskeeda Wrestling. So you talked about your family legacy, and I would love to know what do you think your mom would respond to your actions tonight? And what does she think about the final boss?
Wow, what a great question. Thank you. My mom is my biggest fan. She grew up in the business too. My grandfather, for those of you who don't know, Haichi Peter Maivia, Hall of Famer in WWE, wrestled for Vince McMahon Sr. in the 70s. That's my mom's dad. She's my biggest fan. She loves this business of pro wrestling and loves the final boss. Mama Rock loves the final boss. I'll tell you what she doesn't love. She hates when I cuss. She hates it. Completely hates it. And I was like, come on, Mom. Who gives a f***? I don't. Kidding. She'd slap me. No, not at all. We'll end with one more question. Then I'll jump on a plane. Don't look at me. All right, you. I'll go with you. Okay. Dude, make it good.
So I was there in 1990, Hogan versus Warrior. I was there when you took on Hogan, which was obviously a big moment.
That was here.
That's right. Same bill. Yeah. So that's my question. How did tonight compare, considering you were in the ring for two of Toronto's biggest moments?
I love that question. Thank you for asking that. We've been thinking about this all week long because Toronto generally is a heel town, I feel. And it was a heel town. Certainly was a heel town with me and Hogan. When Hogan and I wrestled WrestleMania 18, I think it was, and that was a real psychological chess game that we played that night. So I thought that this crowd tonight was exceptional. And without getting too far into the weeds, we had discussed, hey, let's be prepared how this crowd is going to be. Because you also, you don't, when you go into something like this crowd tonight, this 38,000 here in Toronto, they're waiting. They know something is going to happen. It's building up. We have the Elimination Chamber, all these matches, right, that we have put together, that we've advertised. But then at the end is our number one hero going to give his soul to the final boss? What's going to happen? And so we had all collectively discussed, let's be prepared. If the crowd goes this way, don't stay on track. Don't be rigid. Let's be flexible. And let's just see. I had to do that with Hogan when we had our match. So those of you who don't know, we had a big match at WrestleMania 18. I came out. I was the big baby face at that time. Hogan was the big heel. The moment we locked up, crowd turned. At that time, I think there was about 60,000 people here. I think the setup was different. And I became the heel within 2 minutes of the match. And so we had to adjust on the go, Hogan and I. And so we went into tonight being flexible, amenable. Let's see if we have to shift and turn. This crowd tonight was unbelievable. And after 3 hours of pay-per-view, people have given all of their energy, but they know something else is coming. And we come out, here comes Rock, here comes Travis Scott. What's going to happen? Are you going to give me your soul? Cody tells me I'm not, in his eloquent way. And in that moment, again, without getting too far into the weeds, everything was just relying on me to make a move, which will then spur the next movements by everybody else. So I just waited and I let it all cook. Once he told me no. Waited. And I think it was such a special moment because I think in wrestling, as we know, it's almost like in sports when you watch pro football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, same thing in pro wrestling. There's a metabolism that happens as you're watching the show, and this happens, and a match happens, and you feel like, oh, the good guy is making like this, he's coming back, and it's happening, and I think a finish is happening, and they kind of know, like there's a rhythm to things. And I think in this case, when he told me, excuse my language, go fuck off, and I paused and waited and waited and waited and waited. I wasn't going to move. And then finally, when I did make a little bit of a move, John came over, he gave him his hug. I got to tell you, I've been I've been part of a lot of really cool moments in pro wrestling, whether growing up and watching them or just being a part of them. And here in Toronto was one of them. That Hogan match with me was the greatest match of my career, and it happened here in Toronto. What made it great was the crowd turned and kept us on our feet. So tonight, the crowd didn't know what was going to happen, but they knew something was going to happen, so they were feeling it. And the moment John hugged Cody, and he looked at me, and I went, the whole place erupted. And that moment is what we work for. Like, that's the thing. It's bigger than a promo. It's bigger than words. It's bigger than anything I could say or anybody could say. It's bigger than a storyline. It's bigger than a television show. It's bigger than broadcast numbers. It's bigger than, it's the that you get when you do something and the crowd just becomes unglued. Oh, you have one more.
No, just one really quick thing. Two things. I didn't say my outlet before, so Mert Schaffer, TMS.
Great, yeah.
I can't forget
No
that.
one
Like, come
give
on.
that right now.
After a question like that.
No one.
But my final thing was, did you learn anything from that Hogan thing that you applied when you had the moment tonight?
I did. What a great question. I learned to always be open, and I learned to be flexible in the moment. Because often, when a crowd turns on you and there's 60,000 people that turns and you don't expect it, I think naturally human instinct is and behavior is to tighten up. No. Stay on our path. I work as a babyface. Hogan, you work as a heel. We have to stay on the path. In that moment, I was very happy that we both kind of knew what we had to do. So the lesson in that was, you just never know. You think you know, but you just never know. And when you go out in front of a live audience, whether there's 38,000 people like tonight in Toronto, or whether there's 3,800 or 380, you never know. So be open and be flexible. And ultimately, remember that the bottom line is you want to send everybody home happy. Send them home happy. So a lot of times that requires you to change your ways in the moment. All right, I got to catch a flight. I'm sorry. Thank you guys so much for tonight. I appreciate it. What's up, Chris? All right, thank you.
That is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson here on Elimination Chamber post-match show. As he says, I thought the moment was incredible tonight. Stood beside all the iconic angles of all time, Big E.
It's definitely up there. You know, we spent so much time talking about this. I realized we haven't talked at all about the actual men's chamber match. We got to see Cena and Punk stand off. We got to see all these world champions in that match. But this has been such a meaty, just that end bit. There was so much to get into, something we're going to be talking about for quite some time. So many questions to come.
Yeah, and so many things we end up thinking about after that men's chamber match leading into WrestleMania. Of course, Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. What happens with them? Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Logan Paul and CM Punk. But you're right, at the end of the day, it ends up all being dwarfed by that sign and John Cena's weird face as he was about to beat down Cody Rhodes ruthlessly.
Absolutely. It is time to wrap up the night with Big E's 5 Count. Take it away.
Yes, sir.
The birthday boy.
Is Big E's 5 Count, where I run down my top 5 performers of the night. Number 1, we have Bianca Belair. Pete, you know this. Jadakiss once rapped top 5, dead or alive, and that's off 1 LP. That's how I feel about this woman who has less than 5 years on the main roster because she is headed to WrestleMania. Number 2, we have Trish Stratus. By year's end, she will be a quinquagenarian. That means she'll be turning 50. And this woman just hit a super stratisfaction from the top rope on Nia to secure the win for her team. Number 3, we have Kevin Owens. Look, they need to change the phrase beat like a redheaded stepchild to beat like a redheaded former best friend. KO wins a match that was just as brutal as we all thought it would be. Number 4, we have John Cena. look, that closing stretch between Punk and Cena gave me all the feels. It felt like 2013 again. It's like Macklemore's Thrift Shop was on the radio, and gas prices were actually 60 cents more expensive on the dollar. But anyways, John Cena walks away as your winner, is headed to WrestleMania. And last but not least, The Rock, might as well call him Frank Oz or Jim Henson. He is the master puppeteer, pulling all the strings. We saw Cena in a move that I never anticipated, siding with The Rock, and he beats the living hell with Travis Scott out of Cody.
Earlier tonight, I turned to you and I said, Peter, on nights like this, there are often winners who didn't necessarily win. Who won tonight?
That's a really good question, because how do you not think about Randy Orton?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who comes back. He's been out of action for so long, and now you know he's thinking about that date in late April in Las Vegas, and who would not want to see? Because we didn't get to see the punt. He was that close to punting Randy Orton.
Oh, man.
Didn't get the chance, but first of all, he looked incredible. You talked about Trish and where she's at in life. Randy has been doing this very long time as well. Looks like he'll get a big moment at WrestleMania as well.
And by the way, WrestleMania now is only 48 days away because we're past midnight.
It's Sunday.
After this post show, right? But it was worth it. 48 days away from WrestleMania as we saw what happened tonight. John Cena wins the men's elimination chamber. Bianca Belair wins the women's elimination chamber. But the headline is going to read, "Hey, Rock, go F yourself." And the throat slash that followed. The amazing happenings here in Toronto. Of course, Raw's coming to you from Buffalo. Rhea Ripley defending a world championship against Io Sky. NXT comes your way. Evolve debuts on Wednesday, Peter. Right. And SmackDown comes your way from Philly. Oh, what an industry-altering night here in Toronto. Thank you for being with us.
This has been a special presentation of WWE. For over 70 years, the global leader in sports and entertainment.
Women's Elimination Chamber match!
Jade Cargill is back! What the? Cargill has attacked Naomi! We're down to two. Liv Morgan, Belair.
If you're brave enough to lead it, I don't wanna bend to my own loneliness.
Bianca Belair is going to WrestleMania. 38,493 in attendance. Cody Rhodes, will he sell out to The Rock?
'Cause they push and pull me down, and I'm forced to face that. Who I become, the silence screams so loud. I find myself before the bottom. I need a new way, give me a new way. Get up. Cause they push and pull me down, and I'm forced to face that. Who I've become, the silence screams so loud. I find myself before the bottom. I need a new way, give me a new way.
Seth Rollins just screwed CM Punk. John Cena's going to WrestleMania.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Cody Rhodes, the moment has arrived. I will open my arms. You will come to me. You will embrace me as your brother If the answer is yes, then the American Nightmare will live forever. If your answer is no, then tonight, the dream dies. Hey, Rock! Go f yourself!